right. Unfortunately, coming out of today, things that expected to see. Coming off of the week of work, coming off the challenge, not applied well enough, and ultimately, just still too many mistakes. We had our opportunities. We found ourselves in situations to be able to capitalize, and then obviously found ourselves in some challenging spots throughout the course of the game, and we didn't do enough to overcome the negative plays, and obviously had some missed opportunities and some self-inflicted mistakes that cost us big in this game. And we did have some injuries, some guys that went down, but we had plenty of opportunities, and that's a team that it's a good enough team that if you put yourself in those situations, they can take advantage of it. And there's some things coaching, players wise, things that are emphasized, things that we've got to get fixed and we've got to get applied, to be able to come out just victorious. I mean, at the end of the day, you got three straight weeks where we finished the game with a one possession loss, and there's too many things that have showed up that have kept us from that, and ultimately it all falls on my shoulders because we're not getting it done. And so we need to, as a group, and you're talking to the guys there in the locker room. I mean, it's a pissed off football team, and you can be pissed off. But we got to see application and execution in the moment from all of us, every one of us, of what we want it to look like, what we want it to be, and to get the job done, to come out on top. And so this team, I believe that they will continue to fight. I believe that they will. You'll give everything that they have, and we will get it right. And obviously everything that's in front of us, with this week, and it is a game. We got to go on the road. We got a long trip ahead, but we've got work that needs to get done and work that needs to get applied. And like I said, watching the intent of last week's practice, that's one of the things that are most disappointing to me is there was things that I thought guys did a great job throughout the weekend, and then still we had our moments in this game that some either lack of focus, some communication issues, or just just missed opportunities showed up, and we've got to be better than that.
First question will be Ira Leonard, right?
You mentioned having some guys out, but I know most of that was on offense. How surprised are you by the defense not being able to get off the field throughout the whole game?
Yeah, we obviously didn't play very well on that side of the ball, and there's things that obviously as coaches we gotta look at, and matchups and positions, and obviously how things are we're getting it done throughout the course of the game, and then obviously there were some opportunities where we got to be better with the guys that are on the field, and but they had multiple fourth down conversions that they were able to get. The quarterback, we lacked getting pressure on the quarterback enough, and then when we did, he stepped up and had big runs and scrambles, which we got to be better integrity in our rush lanes. There were some still a couple times with communication where we've got to be better in our coverage, and even though we were able to create a couple takeaways, there were still a couple missed opportunities that we had that were critical in that game. And so obviously it's not to the standard of how we expect to play. Credit to the team that running back did a great job. There were some times that we were in some probably unfavorable matchups with him, and we got to be able to get that corrected. And and then there were still times where we're right in position to make the play, but you got to go finish, and you can't hesitate. You can't wait for somebody else, and you got to go take advantage of those times. And really it's a collective effort in all things, but I was surprised.
Come to your left for Brenda.
When there are pass rush issues with lane discipline, is that guys trying to do too much? Is it communication? Or is there a general theme as to why that breakdown has happened as much as it did today?
Yeah, there's some moments where whether it's a game or twist, and there's the urgency and really just the overall continued understanding the importance of where you have to be. And, it's not, you can't, sometimes you might have a desire. I mean, you got to be relentless to get there. And we've got to make sure that there were some of those situations that showed up. There's some times, obviously, that there was maybe a lack of communication, or guys that need to be a little bit cleaner and understanding things that we worked for that to show up in the course of the game. And there were a couple times where we just they got us on, did a good job on their offensive line or quarterback where he worked to that allowed it to extend. But it's unacceptable to have as many just I guess easy yards with the quarterback stepping up and scrambling the way that he did. We've got to be better in our run lanes.
Stay over there for Liam.
When it comes to stuff, particularly in the middle of the field, is that a communication breakdown defensively between the guys in the secondary, the linebackers? Is that just the other offense scheming up things well?
I mean, there's some things that were schemed today that were good. I mean, and we knew the running back. He's he can be a challenge for the receiver that he is out of the backfield. They did some good things in trying to isolate that, and they caught us right in a few coverages. In those situations, we did have a couple times where it was either a tempo or a motion that we weren't clean enough in our communication, and there was just a little bit of hesitation, or a step behind, or didn't get the communication echoed. But there's one or two players that were operating together, and so those they're susceptible to space, and we allowed way too much space today.
Go in the middle for Aslan.
I know a lot of the guys on staff had coached with each other at different places, but this is such a new staff. Is everybody comfortable enough pushing each other at practice and then in the heat of the game to pull these wins out?
I mean, you're talking just within the staff? Or
Yeah, just assistants being able to kind of go back to each other and communicate.
Yeah, I mean, that's an expectation. We all have a job to do. And, I mean, at the end of the day, what you see that shows up on the field, what shows up on film, that's us. And it's not been good enough. It starts with me. I mean, offense, defense, special teams. Obviously, there were plays in every phase that did not allow us to get a victory today. And so, I know my expectation for the staff. I know my expectation for the players. Everybody that's what I said a week ago. You talk about the application of things that are happening in practice. Well, we need to grow up and get it done in the game. And if it's not happening in your position, take ownership of it and get it fixed. And that's part of it. That's part of it. I mean, I've got to take full ownership to everything that you had to just watch out there and get it fixed. And the work is in front of us. The work is there, and what needs to get done. But the application, and it's everybody. And so that's. I know what it needs to look like. I know what it needs to be. And we got to get it done.
All right, we'll go back to Ira.
After the first loss of the season, the feeling was everybody we talked to in the program was this year's different. Not going to let this one loss turn into 2, turn into 3. How do you get these guys to turn things back around?
Well, it's I don't know how much of it is a carryover. I don't necessarily feel a carryover effect. It's about when you play teams that have talent and ability, and guys that are go out there and execute, and if you do things that put yourself in competitive disadvantages, you get exposed, and we've got to make sure that in each week, our focus, our being able to translate the week of work into the game, and then be able to deal with the ebbs and flow of the game. I mean, there's going to be good moments, bad moments. I thought we saw that. I thought there late in the first half, the guys did a good job in being able to handle that, to be able to go in up at halftime. But then we get into the fourth quarter. And, obviously, the fumble was huge. I mean, we had some huge plays with penalties that cost us. And when you sit there and you talk about, accountability, you talk about your work, you talk about emphasis, but we gotta do it in the course of the game. And, just we're not doing that consistently enough. And, each game you get one shot at it. So, I don't think this team has stopped fighting. I don't believe that there's pullback in it. It's just, you get three one freaking score losses, and, we've earned every one of them. So it pisses me off.
Go to Taylor, second row on your right.
Coach, as I was walking over here through the crowd, I heard several fans say, well, we beat Alabama. What can you say to those fans that think this team peaked in one to prove that maybe there's another peak later on in the season?
Well, I believe in what these guys can do. I think we've shown flashes, and even in some of these losses, we've shown flashes of capability. But if you don't put it together, it's still about the one game that you have. And today we had our opportunity, and we came up short. That's, I don't doubt this. I don't doubt this team. I don't doubt the ability and capability that they have. But once again, we've got to be able to transition that from week to week, so our best shows up. And obviously that's what needs to get done.
All right, we'll go to Corey, third row.
I know you wouldn't make excuses for a loss, but how much does the offense change? I know this is probably a dumb question. When you're down essentially 3 starting wide receivers and a starting tight end, you guys didn't pass much at all in the second half until the last drive. And is there an update on Deuce? Do we know if he'll be ready to go or good to go?
Yeah, no, I don't have much updates when it comes to injuries. We had guys that tried to push throughout the week. Even Randy came out in pregame to try to give it a go, and just wasn't able to be able to do that. And obviously you've got a group that that has worked together, and I think that it's there's some commendable performances. I think when Kai Danzy showed up at a really high level. We're down 2 receivers that are starters. We had one of our other guys that started the season as a starter that was out. You mentioned Randy, there at tight end. Starting right tackle was out. And so there was plenty of new faces that were in there. But I think they're guys that are capable. And now as we got further into the depth, it was made it a little bit more challenging. And those guys when you get your opportunity, you got to show that you're ready and be able to transition that into making plays in the moment. And there's guys that are still even within a couple of those rooms that have talent and ability. We just need the consistency of where to be, what to do, how to do it, at a high level. And we've got to continue to coach and develop them. Because it's not from a lack of want to of our coaching staff or even with the players, but it is that application. But yeah, it has its effect. But I still believe that there's plenty of capable playmakers within those groups to be able to get the job done.
All right, we're gonna go 2 more. Come back to Brendan on your left.
There's a segment of the fan base that's frustrated with the results. I guess what would your messaging be to them when you say we are going to get it right?
You should be frustrated with results. We lost three straight games. I'm frustrated with the results, and ultimately we got to get it fixed. We got to go make it better, and show the potential of what this team is, on a consistent basis. But yeah, there's every bit of frustration. There's no fan that's out there that's more frustrated than I am, and there's been a lot of work and investment and push with this team, and we got to get the job done, and that's what it comes down to. But I understand their frustrations, and we're going to get it fixed, and we're going to get it right.
All right, last one. We'll go back to Ira.
Seems like a pretty common theme in a couple of these, maybe all of these losses, but definitely this one in Virginia, where you guys had opportunities to maybe push the lead out or make a stop that could turn the game, and just not coming through in those moments. Is that something that can be learned, or is that something maybe there's just not enough ability on the team to do?
Well, it's not a consistent person or group in that moment, but it comes down to where if you got an opportunity to make the play, you gotta go finish it. And if you are as coaches, we've got to put these guys in the best space to be able to accomplish that. And whether it's adjustments that we make, whether it's the people that are out there. All those things are evaluated, and as things consistently show up, but there are some consistent issues that we've had that have to get better, and that's it's our job as a coaching staff to be able to minimize some of the limitations that might have shown up, and to still be able to go out and be productive with each drive, or in some of those critical situations that we've got to go either stretch the lead or respond and get a stop. And so like I said, I do believe in the playmakers that we have, and I do believe that there's a path of that getting done immediately, and that needs to show up, and everybody's accountable for it, and we've got to get the job done. But it's not just been one issue that's constantly showed up, but I mean we've had our moments.
All right, thank you, Coach.